it up the ground. Dribble handoff to Shelton. Pulls at the free throw line with a jump shot. Got it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Episode 7 of the Will Shelton Show. I'm your host, Will Shelton. Today, in part 2 of 3 of the Appreciation Series, we talk about the original Will Shelton, my dad, Willie Shelton. No, I'm not a junior. I'm William. He's Willie. I like to say I'm Big Will. He's Little Will. And that's always, he always laughs at that one. But no, man, today, very similar to the last episode about my mom. Just gonna kind of dive into my dad and what made him and makes him today, still to this day, a great father. I believe the best father in the world. Can't nobody tell me I don't have the best parents in the world. But no, man, very, very misunderstood person. I know that's an easy thing to say. But he is a very misunderstood man. Not enough words in the dictionary to describe him as a man, as a person. Outside of my wife, he's my best friend. Man, we've talked every night on the phone or every day on the phone for the most part. I mean, there were spells where we may not have talked, but I'm about to be 26 in a couple months. Probably 98.9% of the nights that I've been alive that I can remember that I had access to a cell phone or a house phone, we've talked on the phone. Now some nights may have had to wait till after 9 because, as most of you may remember, back then the minutes were free after 9. So if you could call long distance and you wouldn't have to worry about it. But no, man, that's, if I had to choose one word outside of misunderstood for my father, man, it would probably just be honorable, man. He's always been, I said about my mom, she's, puts on a tough exterior, but on the inside she's soft. Like, no, my dad's a tough guy. He's always been a tough guy. He's 5'10", 5'11". When I was a little kid, he was bigger. He was probably about 350, I believe he said, 325, 350, somewhere in that range. Now when he was younger, he was, as you can see, he was that height. He was a hooper, my favorite basketball player of all time, and can't nobody tell me he's not the best basketball player ever. But no, man, as you can see, he wasn't that. Life kind of caught up to him. Started having kids, so as most adults know, one of the first things to fall outside of your routine is exercise, and he kind of fell into that, as well as stress, and outside of that, and as well as stress, etc., things of that nature. So kind of lost control of his weight for a little while. But so when I was a kid growing up, he was about 5'10", probably about 325-ish or 350, somewhere in that range. But that never stopped him from being around, like moving around. He was still probably the most athletic 300+ pound person I've ever seen. Like, we used to play horse in the front yard. I used to see him do all kind of dribble moves, man. The first person that I ever knew to be able to shoot a jump shot with his right and left hand. I mean, he was ambidextrous. Like, he used to kind of force me to use both hands. Like, he would shoot a left hand jumper from the left wing, 3-point line bank shot. And now I got to go at 8 years old in the front yard and do that. And I can't. Like, I couldn't. But he was the one that kind of, put it in my head. Like, look, you have to be able to do everything with both hands. But man, my dad. The reason I say honorable is because it's kind of what he bases his teachings off of. He may not use that exact word, but at the base of it is honor and respect, and you give it just the same as you get it. Now you demand respect from everybody, but you give respect to everybody in the utmost manner until they give you a reason not to. There's gonna be a couple stories today that definitely demonstrate that, because he was I say he was a tough man, not because he was running around beating everybody up or he was running around cussing everybody out, but he didn't budge off of his morals and what he stood for. Not everybody was a fan of that. I saw some of it firsthand. I heard stories of it. some of it secondhand, but for the most part, I got to witness my dad being a man's man. And most people will understand what I mean when I say that, but for those who don't, and a man's man, and I'm saying he would give anybody the respect, the time of day, etc. But the minute you don't, he's not gonna wait for you to walk away to he's not gonna wait for you to walk away to talk behind your back or anything like that. He's not gonna be messy about it. He's not gonna make a scene about it. But he's going to confront you right in your face. And he's not gonna try to make it seem like he's big bad Willie, as he likes to say, but man, he would always demanded his respect and the respect for his family, his children, his wife, etc. Now, if we were wrong, he corrected us. And there was no if, ands, or buts about it. If he was wrong, he would acknowledge his wrong. But I think where I get it from is if he's wrong, you have to show him he's wrong. You know, that's the way I am today. We're not just people that you can just say, hey, you're wrong, and we're just gonna go with it. No, like you have to show me, put it on paper where I'm wrong, and then now, okay, I apologize, or I have to see it. But no, man, starting from when I was young, my dad moved to Nashville with my stepmother and my brother Kevin when I was probably 2-3 years old. So we've always, I mean, literally always, outside of probably 3-4 years, we've always had a long distance relationship. You know, he moved to Nashville, which is about 2.5 hours from where I was living in Savannah, and you know, it was weird because I had a better relationship with him from 2.5 hours away than a lot of the kids that I knew that had their fathers in the house with them. You know, like I said, we talked on the phone every night. He raised me, again, with my mother was there as well. I was with my mother every day, but he raised me over a phone and seeing me every other weekend. So seeing me, 4 days out of the month, and talking to me on the phone 30 out of 31 days. Excuse me. And that's being a man today. And I don't have any kids, but I have to imagine raising a child over the phone cannot be easy. And now my dad has 7-8 kids, and we're all spread out all over the country. Like, I'm in Georgia. I got 3-4 in Tennessee. I got two in New Mexico. I got one in Cali. You know, there's a bunch of us everywhere. But he finds a way to make time for all of us, even when we're being hard headed, and we're all hard headed, just at different times. You know, he always finds time, even if he has to lose sleep, which I've seen him do, and he's done for me. I've seen him do a million times. Even if he has to lose sleep, to sit up and listen to our problems and help guide us, just to, you know, go to sleep at 2 in the morning and get up at 5 to go to work, or when he was on night shift for a while, you know, he would spend his days doing things that pertain to maybe my little brother, or whatever the case, whoever needed it, you know, be on the phone, whatever, losing sleep that way. And for anybody that's ever been on night shift, you know that night shift is a beast. So you need your sleep. And, you know, he would, whatever needed to be done for the house, whatever needed to be done for the kids, or his wife, whatever the case was, it would get done. And all that would happen before he even thought about going to sleep. But you know, back to the original subject, man, the way he found a way to raise me over the phone was immaculate, especially me being a young boy. Just be quite frank, like a young black kid in an all-white area, it wasn't easy. Like, you know, he had to teach me lessons of, you know, be yourself, demand your respect, but also there's a line that you can't cross, because being from a small white southern town, I'm going to be looked at different but with the smallest mistake. Now, I can't give anybody other than him and my mother the credit for, the I have respect in that town now. I can't say I would have had that same respect without them. But also my dad, who, my mom couldn't necessarily give me everything a man needs to be a man and be respected as a man. So my dad came in and did that. My dad came in and he was like, be respectful, look everybody in the eye, but also, if you need to address something with somebody, maybe not go aggressive and big and bad and man, talk to them like I'm talking to you guys. Level with them. Like, you can't always, when I'm on the basketball court, that's when I got to take out all my aggression. Now, I can't talk trash. I can't be cussing everybody out. But, that's when I go, and whatever frustration I had, that's where I take it out. The football field, somewhere like that. But I can't act out in school because I'll be looked at different. I can't act out in the community because I'll be looked at different because of my skin color. And he taught me. Now, even though you're, for lack of a better word, tapering yourself off, never ever think you're less than anybody here. He gave me the confidence as a man to be able to walk into any room, any situation, and believe that, okay, I'm not better than anybody here. I'm not worse than anybody here, but I can come in a room and my presence will command a room and command respect, and still be okay. And that's whatever room I walk in, whether it's professional, whether it's athletic, whether it's whatever the case may be. You're never worse than anybody. You're also not better than anybody. And he gave me that confidence, which was very important, because it could have, if without the confidence and probably the guidance of working my way through the town that I was in, I easily could have ended up in prison. I easily could have ended up possibly dead. And not saying I was just in a dangerous area, but it wasn't a lot of stuff to do but get in trouble. So I could have been that kid. But no, I hold my dad in such high regard because he gave me, like, even while he was raising me, I won't say he was strict. There's a word for, I just can't find the word right now, but I will say he was very structured in the way he raised me and my siblings, but I always speak for myself. He gave me the freedom to buck his system, which meant if I had a problem with something he said, I could address him man to man. If I was 10 years old and he said something I didn't like, I could go up to him and talk to him, because he taught me, it's never what you say to somebody, it's how you say it. So I could, if I disagreed with something he said, he didn't mind me coming to him and saying, hey, I disagree with that. And then he'll sit me down and say, okay, why did you disagree with it? Well, did you think about this or did you think about that? 9 times out of 10, he was right. And I was just a kid disagreeing because just to disagree. But if I was right, he'd be like, okay, I see your point. Now we move forward from there. And that was, I think there was always an open line of communication both ways. And that was probably one of my father's best attributes. Always leaving that line of communication open. No matter what time of day, it doesn't matter if we're sitting in front of each other, but it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Man, me and this man, there was a time where my first apartment, I was living probably 5-7 minutes around the corner from him, and he was on night shift. So when he would get off, I barely sleep as it is, but when he would get off, he would stop by my apartment, and man, we would just sit up and talk. And I would either come meet him outside or he would come in. Most of the time I would meet him outside and sit in the car because he knew that if he came in, we'd be there for 3-4 hours talking. But he would just sit and we talked for 20-30 minutes, and just about, how's your day been? How's your mental? We've both been through situations to where we needed to lean on each other, and there was never any judgment. The part that I love most about myself and my father's relationship now is, as adults, we look at each other as two men. He looks at me as a peer. That's just a respect that he holds for me. But the respect I hold for him is like, no, like, you know, I'm not your equal. You know, I'm still here and you're here. Like it's like you know, son. I still look at his son, father, which he does too, but it's more of an equal. You know, it's always gonna. I always tell him it's gonna be hard for me to look at myself as an equal to you because he is my hero. You know, him and I say both my parents are my heroes, both in different respects, but strictly for my father. He is my hero. You know, he's my idol. He's the one I look up to. Like I said, he's my favorite basketball player, and I've never seen him play a second of basketball outside of just the front yard shooting around stuff like that. I've never seen him play a second of competitive real basketball. But he's my favorite basketball player. Like this picture here, I believe this is the only picture I have of him in like a basketball uniform, and it's my favorite picture of him. It's probably one of my favorite pictures that I have, strictly because you know that's my favorite player right there. Like that, and I just it happens to be my father. Now he moved down here down south from Toledo, Ohio. He was born in Savannah, and then I think he spent kindergarten and first grade, maybe second grade in Savannah, and then moved to. I think he went to like North Carolina. He went to like Flint, Michigan, and then ended up settling in Toledo, Ohio, until he graduated high school. And up there, the lessons he had to learn, he had to become a man immediately, like right off the bat. Like he had to take care of my grandmother. He had to take care of my aunt, God rest her soul, who's no longer with us. Excuse me. She's no longer with us. He had to, you know, become the man of the house very quickly. He could have easily fell off into the trap of, you know, the drugs, the gangs, the violence, all that. He could have, like, that was all around him. Toledo's not a soft city by any means. He told me plenty of stories of, you know, people he grew up with, some serving life in jail, some murdered, you know, etc. He told me plenty of times where he had to defend himself and you know, get himself out of situations where he had to say no to a lot of things. You know, he had to say no to like I said, the drugs, the gangs, the violence. The people he was around may have been in it, but he was strong enough mentally to be like, you know, no, there's something, that's not what I want to do. There's something more out here for me. So he would spend days, like full days on the basketball court, just working on his game. And I've heard, I could sit here all night and talk about all the stories he's told me, but this man, coming from that city, the city that molded him, I believe in a way, in a trickle-down effect, molded me, because the same lessons he learned in the streets of Toledo is what he passed on to all of his kids, specifically me, because for a long time I was probably the closest son he had, because we talked every night, and there were other situations that I won't really get into, but you know, not saying he loved me any more or any less than anybody, but I was just the closest to him, and man, I remember, you know, when I was younger, he used to come to Savannah and get me every other weekend. So we had a home that was passed down to us from one of my. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I thought I heard something. Sorry. We had a home that was passed down to us from one of my uncles, or one of his uncles that passed away. But it was probably about 15, 20 minutes from Savannah. He would come down from Nashville, pick me up, and we'd go and stay. And it would be me, my stepmother, my brother Kevin, and then when my brother Malik was born, it'd be all five of us. But there were times when he would come and you know, like I said, my parents wasn't the richest. We were probably barely middle class, if that, but they made it work. And man, I'll never forget. He came down. The one time it was just there was two times that really stick out to me when he came down. Me and him talk about it all the time. But one time it was just me, him, and my little brother Malik. And he comes down and he stops at the grocery store after he picks me up. We get like one of the DiGiorno frozen pizzas, and the house that was passed down to us was an older house. So like we like in the winter time we got like space heaters. So, but there's only a couple of them, so we all pretty much were piled in one room. When it was just him, and my little brother, we just piled up in one room, put all the heaters out, and we'd be warm. But man, we didn't, like I said, didn't have a whole lot of money just to go to the movies and stuff like that. But man, we just had the best time. Me, him, and my little brother, sitting there making that pizza. I think I remember like we all had our own little corner of the pizza. So like we would take obviously it comes with frozen ingredients on it. We all split the ingredients and see who could make theirs the best. Like it was just little stuff like that, like little stuff that just made that night seem like, you could have took me to an amusement park and I would have said I wouldn't have had as much fun as I did that night because we made it fun. He made do, and he made do with the lessons that he learned from Toledo, coming up as hard as he did. And that may not seem like a lot to a lot of people, a story like that, but to me, it kind of embodied who he was because he made the most. He had, I think that was a Saturday night, maybe a Friday night. So he had, let's just say he had Friday night, Saturday night, and then I had to be back home Sunday. He had to get back home. So he had two nights with me to make it seem like, to make up for the next 2 weeks that I wasn't gonna see him. And he did that. He bunched in a bunch of lessons, a bunch of fun, etc., quality time into those 2 nights, which ended up equaling out to about 4 nights a month up until I was probably in high school. Probably about middle school, if that. But another night just like that, this man came in. He came in on a Saturday night and picks me up. He's like, man, look, we're gonna go. I'm gonna pick you up. We're gonna go back to the house. We're gonna shower up, and we're gonna go to the movies. Well, we get to the house, and there's like the hot water wasn't working. Like the hot water heater had gone out. So man, we had to take cold showers, and that was the first. Like that was a horrible experience. Like that was bad. But we made it good because it was wintertime. So we're taking cold showers in the wintertime in a house with no heat. And I think I was in 4th, 5th grade at the time. Maybe a little older than that. But, even then, taking cold showers, house with no heaters, or house with no heat. We had nothing but space heaters in the winter. and we still found a way to make it fun. So after we got the shower, put my clothes back on, and we rushed to the movies, and we went to go see Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins. And every time I watch the movie, I think about that night with him. But he turned that one, like we enjoyed ourselves watching the movie. We laughed and laughed and laughed, but we learned, from my dad. My dad is the type, I know a lot of people see the jokes of, you can't watch movies with your parents because they're gonna turn into a lesson or something like that. Like they can't take a joke, but my dad is really, he really does that, but it's not in it, or at least to me, I guess, because he is my hero and I do hold everything he says in such high regard. My dad will take, he's not really a movie guy, but we watched that movie together, and he taught me lessons off of that movie for weeks, months. Like he stretched it, and that's kind of what he does. He makes a weekend feel like a month. He'll make a 2-hour movie's worth of lessons turn into 6 months worth of lessons. And man, I respect that man because, as many kids as he has, as much distance as there is between them, he's got 4 or 5 grandkids by now, but he tries his best with each and every situation. Now they all don't work out the same, but he gives the exact same effort. Or I'm only saying sometimes he has to give more effort, and I'm always, because mine and his relationship is so great, I'm always willing to, take a back seat, blah blah blah, but say like, hey, go give my portion of effort to somebody else, which sounds stupid to say out loud, but man, if somebody needs more attention over here, he does that, and sometimes parents have to give more attention to one child than the other, but man, kind of moving on to middle school-ish, man, I'll never forget I made the middle school basketball team, and I was so excited. It was like I had to try out. It was the first time I was kind of nervous about making a team. It was like a 2-day process. I made the team, and I remember there was a list outside the office, and I saw my name on the list. And I'll never forget the night I went home, and I called him, and he was like, Daddy, I made the team. Like, I knew that. Like, I knew he was gonna do that. Like, I'm not. He didn't say I'm not impressed. Like, he was happy for me, but it was like, I knew you were gonna do that. There was no change in his voice, and that was probably part of the confidence. That's probably the biggest thing I've gotten from my dad is confidence, because that's what he exudes. Like, if you're around him long enough, you're going to get confidence. if you stay around my dad, you have no choice but to either have confidence, or you're gonna have no confidence because of how confident he is. And he doesn't put anybody down. He doesn't, I'll say he doesn't sit there and be like, bash anybody. He's just so confident in himself. But he's also one of the best I've ever seen at self-reflection, etc. Like he can also tear himself down to where, hey, I'm not good in this area, let me scrap it and then rebuild and make it even stronger. I've seen him through some situations that I won't really get into, but I've seen him in some situations that he kind of, it would tear him down, it would knock him down a few notches, he'd come back even stronger. He keeps coming back. You know how if you play with a dog and you knock them away, but you don't really want to play with them, but they don't understand that. They just keep coming back. Like he's got that. Like he's that personified. Like he's just a dog. And I know in sports you hear people say, this guy's a dog or that guy's a dog. My dad is a dog at life. Like I've seen him come back from some situations. Like, man, he like I said earlier in the show, he was 325, 350, somewhere in there. The man had I don't know the surgery. I don't know if they took out his stomach or he had a sleeve on his stomach or something like that. But he had one of those surgeries, and that was, kind of. I used to see him have these plates of food that were like massive, which I want to be just like my dad, so I get a plate of food that's massive. But I think it was my freshman year of college. He got the surgery. No. I was in high school. Probably my junior, senior year of high school. He got the surgery, and immediately started dropping weight like that. But he couldn't eat the same. So now I go from seeing him have these big, huge, giant plates of food to these little bitty portions, and he never told me, but in my mind, I'm like, man, this man has to be going through hell to go from this to this, like that, like overnight. Like you go to sleep and you wake up one day and you can't eat like you used to. But it was like, man, he took it on the chin and just kept on rolling. And sometimes you see the stories of people having those surgeries and they end up gaining the weight back, like on the show My 600 Pound Life. He had a similar surgery to that. Now again, my dad wasn't 600 pounds, but a similar surgery to that. Man, he I'll never forget, man, the one time I picked him up, the first time I picked him up, I think I was in college. I got to college, I got some muscles, and I was like, let me try my dad. And I picked him up, and the look on his face, that was just a side story. But fast forwarding from the call I made to tell him I made the team to my junior year of high school, so about 5 years apart. I call him, and my junior year of basketball is probably where I started to feel, kind of feel like comfortable with my body, because I hit a couple of growth spurts. I put a little bit of weight on. I kind of felt comfortable how to maneuver my body around, and it kind of showed in my basketball game. So I went from having, I had a couple 30-point games leading up to my junior year, but my junior year, towards the end of the season, I had a 40-point game. So it was like 40 points. I had 14 rebounds, and I just dominated the game. And I couldn't even wait to get out the gym to call him. I call him when I get out the gym, and he's like, "Well, man, I expected that." and when he says that, it's like it ingrains that confidence deeper in me. Like, oh, you're excited about this. Like, you wasn't supposed to do this. and my wife, she hates it. She hates that part of me now, because It's like I'm confident, probably overly confident. Some would probably say cocky in my abilities, no matter what it is. Like, she's a softball player, and I'm like, I could go do that. I'm always confident in whatever I'm talking about. Now, if I know I can't do something, I'm gonna say I can't do it. But for the most part, I'm overly confident, and I get that from my dad, and I believe that is probably one of the strongest attributes I have, because maneuvering through the world that we live in, you have to be confident, because I know a lot of people say it's a cold world out here. Like, it will literally eat you up and spit you out. You have to be overly confident. You have to be a strong-minded person. You can't be a weak individual and maneuver your way through the world that we live in. And he ingrained that in me from a young age. And man, I saw him. I remember there was a time, I think it was I was about 16 years old, so probably my sophomore, the year after my sophomore, no, let me take that back. I was 15. It was the summer before my sophomore year of high school. All my summers, like every summer, I would go spend with my dad. So like probably a week or two after school let out, I would go, my dad would come and get me, and I would spend the summer in Nashville, and that's how my whole life had been. Well, my basketball coach at the time, he like required everybody to be there, and in my mind, I'm like I had like my football coach was more than okay with, because he knew I was gonna get my work in either way. So like I wasn't just gonna be sitting on my ass all summer, but he was more than okay with me going to spend my summers with my father. I'll never forget a show of what this man stood for. My father, what my father stood for. He came and picked me up and took me back to Nashville. Well, probably about 2.5-3 weeks later, my basketball coach, I think it was my basketball coach calls him. He's like, well, it's required for Will to be here at practice or whatever for the month of June. Well, that's fucking 1/3 of my summer. Like, so and not even one, that's well over a third, I'm tripping. But my dad didn't go off. He didn't cuss him out. He didn't do anything crazy. But knowing, like, everybody, all the people that need to know that this is the time I have with my dad. I don't get to have a bunch of time with him throughout the year. This is the time that we get. And so my coach sends his son to come get me, and my dad like, okay, pack your bag, go ahead, blah blah blah. Pretty much cuts my summer short, because my dad works. He can't just like drop everything and then come back and get me, because I was having to be in Savannah for 3 weeks and then go back. Well, that's July. Now he's gonna have to come down and turn right back around and take me back. Like, it doesn't make sense. So it pretty much cut my time with my dad short. Well, my dad, he let it slide for a little bit, but also put that in the back of his mind. Not too long goes by, and my dad absolutely let him have it, because he called, and my dad always said, like, I'm not gonna bring problems to your doorstep, but if you come and ask me about it, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let you know about it. He's not gonna bring you problems, but if you come in and you open the door, he's gonna step his foot in. Man, he let this guy have it, man. He pretty much, he was already not playing me the right way on the court, which frustrated my dad. Like, I'm 6'2", 6'3" at the time. There's no reason for me to be a center or a power forward in high school. But that's the way high school basketball was in small towns. You take your biggest kids, you stick them in the post. But he already wasn't happy about that. So for the coach at the time to come to him and be like, well, blah, 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 whatever he said, my dad just let him have it. And I didn't hear the whole conversation, but he just let him have it, and demanded his respect at the time. So kind of fast forwarding from there, I kind of saw a change in the way that my coach at the time, in the way that he treated me, the way he talked to me, etc. He was never just talking to me crazy, but especially now that he sees what my dad stands for, it was like he might might as well have. You know, he was a yeller and screamer to everybody else. I never heard him say my name, but man, it kind of also reiterates the fact that my dad was always in my corner, and that means a lot to me because we see a lot of kids out here today that don't have dads being in their corners, that don't, especially black kids, young black kids who don't, their dads may be locked up, their dads may be dead, their dads may be nowhere to be found. But here I am, my dad has 7, 8 kids, and he tries to be in each and every one of their corners. Again, it doesn't always work out that way, but he tries to be in each and every one of our corners. And to me, that's an amazing feat, man. Like he even, fast forwarding a little bit further, when I think I was 23 at the time, and I was thinking about proposing to my now wife, but my mom and my dad, they were probably, and also as well as my brother Brian and my brother Jay, out of the people that I talked to, they were like, those were the only people that were like, hey, are you sure? As once I said yes, it was like, all right, cool. Like, how you want to do it? Blah, blah, like, do you have a ring? All that stuff. Like, man, but he took it a step further. It was like, all right, he asked me, are you sure? And I said, yeah, like, I'm very sure. And he started teaching me, our relationship kind of evolved into, now it was still father-son, but now it was man to man, as well as he's been a husband at that point for probably 10, 15 years. It's like, all right, here's how to be a good husband, or here's not really what not to do. He never tried to tell me what to do, but he was like, all right, look, here's what you shouldn't do. Now everybody knows the obvious ones, but he was like, I can't really think of a perfect example. Like, oh, well, so when he was on night shift, at work, his wife would be gone during the day, obviously gone to her job. Every time she would come home, he would have dishes done. He would pretty much be like a stay-at-home husband, except he wasn't a stay-at-home husband. He was like taking away, as well, on top of everything else he was already doing, do the dishes, cut the yard, make sure my little brother had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Make sure there was probably food waiting on my stepmother when she got home. The stuff that he kind of recommended that I do that. He was like, never leave the house dirty or something like that. Now I do that now, but I try to come back and clean it up, and I try to take those same principles into my marriage, and clean up, just to make my wife's day easier. Now we both have jobs, etc., but try to make her day as easy as possible, because that is the job of the man. And I know these days we get into the gender roles and stuff like that. Me and my wife don't really have roles or anything like that, but I try to, do the dishes. If we do the dishes 6 times a week, I want to make sure I'm doing them 4 or 5. Now it doesn't always work out that way, but I try my best to make it happen that way. Now as far as like mopping, like she does that, I'm not a mopper, but like the yard, I try to make sure that stuff is done. I try to make sure the laundry is done and folded, and I let her put her stuff up, but I try to at least make sure it's folded. And I get all that stuff from my dad. And all that stuff may seem simple. It may seem like something that's common sense, but to me, it's like, man, and that's not the only stuff. Like, that's by far, like, man, me and this man, we will sit on the phone for probably 2 hours, 2-3 hours sometimes, just talking. And in that 2-3 hours, we hit so many different subjects. I get being able to keep up a conversation. I get it from him. The gift of gab, as I've heard people say, I get it from him. Walking in and being able to control a room, I get it from him. Walking in and be able to sit in the background of a room, I learned it from him. Like I learned my mannerisms, a lot of my qualities come from my dad. So knowing that, I know that every time I speak to him, I try to give him that appreciation. And I know not a lot of people give their dads the credit they deserve. That's the whole reason for this episode, for this series, is to give people the credit that they deserve. But my dad, man, my dad is he is one of the biggest reasons why I am who I am. And I'm not sitting here saying like I'm anybody special, but I feel like I'm a pretty damn good man, and he's a pretty damn big reason behind it. Like he is probably the most, I'm trying to find a word to describe him. Like, man, I've only seen him, you know, everybody has that story of, you know, they only seen their dad cry once, blah, blah, blah. But like, my dad has never been afraid to show his emotions, but I've still only seen him cry like 2-3 times, but he still never, he still, like, he showed me that, you know, it's okay to tell another man you love him. Like, so to this day, I'm not afraid to tell my brothers or my closest friends, like, man, bro, I love you, blah, blah, blah. You know, be safe. You know, I dap him up, give him a hug every time I see him. He's one of the ones that taught me, you know, how precious life is. So I didn't always, you know, I didn't have to learn that the preciousness of life when I saw somebody like Ron pass. You know, rest in peace to him. I didn't have to learn those lessons the hard way. Obviously, it was still hard when it happened, but he already taught me to appreciate life. You know, appreciate the people you love while they're here. Show them what they mean to you. And you know, I look at my dad, and we've always talked like this, but he'll tell me, you know, sometimes, you know, he's got more days behind him than he does in front of him. And you know, he's been telling me that for a long time, but I see it now. You know, you see it in the gray hairs, and you know, we all look at our parents and we see them getting older, and that, you know, that makes me want to show them appreciation more. It makes me want to grow more and show them that, you know, the stuff that you've done is not in vain. You know, because I know, I mean, I want my parents to live forever. I want my dad to live forever. But knowing that he's not, knowing that he's only got a couple to a few decades left, it makes me want to show him that appreciation more, show him what he's done for me, show him that his hard work wasn't, you know, it hasn't gone unnoticed. I know I didn't really have as many stories as I wanted to. This was all coming straight from the heart, so I probably forgot a lot of stuff. But to my dad, my man, my best friend, man, I'm about to be 26 years old, and I still call my dad daddy. Like, if you look on my phone, he's saved under daddy. And I, like, you know, a lot of people say that's childish. I don't care. Like, that's my dad. Like, that is my dog. Like, you know, nobody can tell me anything about my dad. Man, that's my best friend. Even to this day, I would take a bullet for him. I would kill for him, and everything in between. Man, that's so to my dad, to Lil Will, man, I love you. I appreciate everything you do, man. Everything you've done, everything you do, and everything you will do. Man, I miss you. I can't wait to see you again, man. But man, to you, I'm forever grateful for you. Next episode, hopefully, I'm gonna have to rearrange my setup, but hopefully, you know, y'all pray for me. Y'all in the comments, please tell Kayla to get on the show. But hopefully, I'll be able to get my wife on the next show. We'll see if she'll do it. Obviously, the setup will look a little bit different, but I think she'll go for it. But no, man, thank you guys again for the likes, shares, subscriptions, texts, calls, all that stuff. The support always means the world. Like every comment, every like, man, it does something to my heart, because I am trying to build this thing from scratch, man. So I appreciate everything you guys do, man. I thank you. Man, until next time.